So Bill, thank you so much for your willingness to participate in our NCAPDA Dose of Awareness educational series. I understand you had a really scary episode recently with your dog Lucy here. She looks great now, but I guess she wasn't always that way.
Well, I had just come back from the drugstore with a 10-day supply of prednisone, 30 tablets. And I took one, and I left it closed on the kitchen table. And I was gone for a short time. And I got back, and on the floor was the pill container and the lid, separate, and no pills.
No pills, oh my gosh.
And so it's pretty clear that she had just had 29 pills.
She ate all of them.
She ate all of them.
Oh my gosh.
I think she's attracted to the little colored jar, and it's just the right size to contain something interesting.
Yeah.
And it couldn't have tasted good,
Well,
but here's all these
she
little
ate them so
things.
soon, probably, yeah.
She ate them all up.
Yeah, my gosh.
So I immediately called the vet and said, "Is this an issue?" And they said, "Oh yeah, bring her in." And so I brought her in, and they pretty quickly put, there was a line of people waiting, and they just took her in, took her back.
So they knew it was really an emergency.
And what they were trying to do is to get her to vomit. And they did, but not much came up. So that was bad news.
And this was really quickly, within how many minutes would you say?
Well, I'd say within 30 minutes,
Okay.
maybe a little more. And so, I don't know how much detail you want. There's a lot of detail. They wanted me to call the ASPCA Animal Poison Center, which I did. And they wanted all the details of her age and breed and weight and how much she'd gotten, the milligrams, etc. And the lady was gone from the phone for quite a while. Fortunately, she came back, and the first thing she said was, "This is not life-threatening."
Okay.
And I think it would have been without treatment. It would have been fatal.
That had to be a big relief for you, just those words.
The vet was very worried about the adrenal glands, which the Poison Control Center said they didn't have to worry about. The main two issues were dehydration, which she could die from, and perforation of the intestines. And after 2 weeks, we're still treating that, protecting her against that.
Oh my gosh.
So they put her on IV, and she lost about 1.5 pounds in, I'll say 1 pound in the first 9 hours. Mostly moisture from excessive urinating. And I guess she had some diarrhea. And her electrolytes were down. So they decided to keep her for overnight and keep the IV and start giving her potassium. And the next morning they're hoping I could take her home, but the potassium had started to come back up, which was very good, but her weight had gone down a little more.
Even despite the hydration.
Yeah, they had gone from 1.5x maintenance to 2x maintenance. She was still losing weight a little bit. So they kept her for another 6 hours or so, and then they said her weight had gone up a little bit, potassium was getting even better, and they thought that I could take her home. I said, "Well, that's great, I'll come pick her up." And they said, "Well, we have a lot of training to do for you."
Really?
I said, "Training? What training?" "Well, you need to give her treatment at home for a while." So I went in, and of course it was great to see her then. And she looked pretty good. I don't think she suffered a lot. I think she was probably pretty uncomfortable, but I don't think she was in any great pain. But she was in a lot of danger. So I had to give her an antacid. I think they didn't want her vomiting because vomiting could be a symptom of intestinal damage. So you don't want a false flag. So they wanted me to feed her bland food and give her these antacid pills. More seriously, because she'd lost so much hydration, they wanted me to inject her with saline solution under the skin, not intravenous, which I would not be qualified to do.
Right.
I'd get her on my lap and get the bag hanging, make sure there were no bubbles in the tube, prepare the needle, make sure I didn't let the needle touch anything, and then I had to pick up her skin off her neck and get the needle about 3/4 of an inch under her skin, and then try to squeeze the bag. I needed 3 hands. Unfortunately, Alita was away for that week. So it was difficult, and I really hated doing it. I just was so afraid I was going to do something wrong and infect her or something, or stick the needle into something. But she was so good and just sat there for the 5 minutes that it took and squeezed 200 milligrams of water under her skin.
And this was how many times a day?
Once a day,
Once a day.
for about 5 or 6 days.
Okay.
Really wasn't able to do the whole 200 milligrams. I just would want to stop. And once in a while, the needle just came out. I wasn't going to put it back in.
Yeah.
And then the third and probably the most serious thing is to protect the intestine from perforation. And for that, I had to give her a hypodermic, not needle, but a syringe. And I had to prepare this slurry from a pill and water and get her to swallow it. And that had to be done real religiously 6 hours apart, 4 times a day. So that includes 6 a.m. and midnight. So the last week and a half I haven't gotten a lot of sleep. And she's been great about that too. She starts to know when I've got that syringe, she comes over and sits down.
She doesn't run.
She knows what I have to do. Fortunately, it doesn't taste bad. And we've been giving her that. We're still giving her that. And
How much longer will that be then?
another few days. So it's over 2 weeks,
My gosh.
just to protect the intestine. It coats the intestine and protects it. And so it's been very scary. I feel like if she got run over by a car and I took her to the vet, I would feel terrible, I would feel very anxious. But then there's this huge layer of guilt, because it was my fault that I let her get this overdose. And my attitude is, first of all, don't put it down anywhere for a minute or a second, because the phone's going to ring, or you're going to think of something that you forgot out in the car or something. It's so easy. You think you're not going to look away from it, but you will. And you put it somewhere where you think she can't get at it, and she can. And these are proof against children. A 2-year-old would not have been able to get this thing open. Dog, no problem.
No problem at all.
She probably opened it up in about 20 seconds.
Wow.
So my attitude became, it's got to go in a cabinet or a drawer, and just don't ever put it down anyplace else for any length of time. I think of it as an unexploded bomb.
Well, that's really true. And moving on to humans, we have a lot of young children that end up in the ER, thousands of them every year because of pills left casually on a counter or a table. So, that's one of the things our organization's really working hard at, is give the word out about the need to lock up these meds and properly dispose of them. I know in our area here, you can take them to the police department to get rid of them if you have any spare left over or whatever. But other communities can just call the police department, they'll know where to get rid of them. So this has obviously been so traumatic for you and your family. So do you have any last words of wisdom then? Definitely lock it up, but overall, how has this impacted you, would you say?
Well,
It's been a great learning experience, but what else?
I think it's been a very tough time, but I'm so happy with the way it came out. The thing it's easy to put a bottle of pills down and think that this is not a dangerous thing, and the fact is it's extremely dangerous. It's life-threatening, and it's hard to start thinking of it that way. I think I'll always think of it that way now. A bottle of pills is a life-threatening object.
I can't thank you enough for sharing your story with us. This is going to save other pets, I'm sure of it. So thank you, and I'm so happy to see that Lucy's doing well.
Well, Lucy, you come sit with me? There she
There
is.
she is. She's
What a
looking
good
so
dog.
happy. You'd never know anything happened to her looking at her, but boy, she's been through a lot.
I don't think she's got her stamina back yet.
Really? Yeah.
It's
I would
close.
know that, but,
Otherwise, I'd say she's perfectly gotten a total recovery.
well, she's adorable, and I'm so happy for the outcome, too.
I'm so grateful to the vet.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.